Hi there, Release Fire here, so I'm going to talk you through how I managed to beat Jenova, the boss fight, towards the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Hopefully the video is going to help you out. If it does, drop me a like below. As ever, it's massively appreciated. So it's fairly easy to get in close to Jenova, but what you actually need to do is go after the tentacles with fire damage as quickly as possible, because that should take them both out. So you can see here I'm just using fire on one side and then the other, and because they're close enough to it and my fire attacks, my fire damage is big enough to cover a large area, it kind of took out both of them, which meant then I was free to get in some good damage on Jenova and then start hitting Jenova itself with fire damage, which you can see does a good amount of damage and an even better impact on its stagger bar. And then I also tried Aerith's Ray of Judgment ability, which also does a decent amount of damage on the stagger bar, but no more or less than fire damage does directly on it. So you can choose between either one of those to get a good amount of stagger, and then it's just a case of cycle, rinse, repeat. Use your abilities for your guys closer to, and try to aim for a stagger as quickly as you can. But the likelihood is that you'll probably go through to the second phase of the fight before you actually get that stagger, in which case it might reset, which isn't that big a deal because by this stage you should have done a decent amount of damage on it anyway. If you see you're using Aerith and it's showing this immune, or you see the little shield next to it, don't hit it with any magic because that will fire straight back at you. Instead, wait for that to go and then go back after the tentacles with fire, and then you can get back in close to do as much damage as you can with your melee characters like Tifa. And then as soon as you get an opportunity to bring in your summons, you should definitely do that. I brought in Shiva, but if I'm honest, it probably would have been better to bring in Ifrit. But either way, any of them will definitely help you to finish off Jenova. And then anytime you see the floor opening up around you, definitely skip out of the way of that and avoid any kind of discolorations because you might get trapped in them with the stop ailment. But if that does happen, just switch on over to your other characters, get in close while it's distracted, and do as much damage as you can. And by that stage, your summon should be ready for its final move, which should do a good amount of damage. When you see Jenova down and looking fairly immobile, it's a good idea just to get in with Cloud and do as much damage as you can using abilities directly on Jenova at this stage, and that should be enough to see you through to the next phase where things get just a little bit more tedious with these little tentacles to take out. However, if you switch on over to Tifa, she takes them out really quickly with her whirlwind punch, and then you want to get in and do as much damage on Jenova while it's got this short window where you can actually hit it. Unfortunately, I didn't know that at this stage, and I just went in with a cure and had to go through the cycle of taking out the tentacles again before I got another opportunity to get in close to it. Now you can see you can get in damage quite well, and the whirlwind punch does a good amount of damage in itself, so that was enough to get it to stagger, and then I can hit it with a limit break and abilities and magic to be able to do a big chunk of damage, which is quite useful at this stage, and this helped me get it close to being finished, which you can see it took off a huge chunk of damage, and I still wasn't finished on this stagger, so I had a lot going in all at the same time, and this meant I was able to go straight through to the final phase with one big wave of hits. And then in the third phase, I managed to save Aerith's limit break, which gave me a big amount of healing just before going in and just doing a huge amount of clobbering damage with Cloud up close. You can see it does quite a nice amount of damage. And then switch back out to Tifa to get in a little bit of magic on the tentacles before getting back in with Cloud again to keep up the pressure and keep chipping away at Jenova's health bar. And then just keep up the pressure with wave after wave of abilities and magic and everything you've got to get it ever closer to being finished. But you can see it's got quite a lot of defense, and its health bar is fairly big as well. So it does take a lot of time and effort to chip it down. But if you keep on following this process, then you should be able to finish it off quite nicely. And for me, I just spent the last little phase of this fight just using Tifa up close and whirlwind after whirlwind. It does a good amount of damage each time, and it didn't take too long to be able to finish it off. So mostly going after Jenova itself, but occasionally getting the tentacles. But if you keep that up, then Jenova will be done and dusted, And that is how to beat Jenova here in Final Fantasy VII Remake. Hopefully the video and tips help you out. If it does, drop me a like below. You can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, with the links on the left hand side, and check out the rest of my guide to Final Fantasy VII Remake with the links on the right hand side. Leave any comments below and I will catch you next time.